Hi guys, I am the Amazing Nudist Buddhist. This is the Naked Dharma, and today we're going to talk about how to meditate.
Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi.
Hello everybody, Turk from Amazing Nudist Buddhist here. I wanted to again talk about meditation and how to do it. I made some better notes this time, I believe, and I think this video, along with the IGTV video I created earlier, which you can see, I think will give you a better picture. So sitting still in silence is something most people do everything they can to avoid. We find ourselves staring at our phones, scrolling social media sites to see what others are doing in their lives, while really avoiding what's happening right now in our own lives. So sitting in silence without your phone, TV, iPod, iPad, or some other means of distraction from the now is what keeps you from getting lost in the barrage of never-ending thoughts your mind constantly has churning inside it. So for those that may have missed the introduction to the series, let me say this one more time. The biggest misconception when it comes to meditation is that the meditator is working to stop or quiet the mind. This is an impossible task, as stopping your heart from beating, just by thinking you do not want it to beat again. What the hell is meditation then if it isn't about silencing the mind? That's a good place to start as any, so let's dive in, okay? Well, what meditation is, as I said before, it's a very broad term that involves some sort of contemplative effort. Rather than get into the different types of meditation and discuss their origins and what Buddhist tradition they fall under, I'd rather keep this as simple as possible and only go into what my experience has shown me to be the best starting point. This would be insight or mindfulness meditation, also called Vipassana meditation. Now, Vipassana meditation is from the Theravada school of Buddhism, which is the tradition I practice, and that's as far as I'm going in tradition. Now, my mentor and teacher, Noah Levine, it may be Levine, I never can remember. Noah, I apologize, who has studied Theravada under Jack Kornfield in the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah. End of traditions, no more. So, as this is a basic introduction, I'm going to stick with meditation in a seated position, how I'm sitting right now. My experience is this is the best way to start, and as you become more comfortable or confident in your practice, we can then lead up to walking meditations and much more. Walking meditations can be wonderful. I never was able to do them very well until I went to a day-long retreat at Against the Stream in Santa Monica, and it really opened me up to walking meditations. But so in order to get back into sitting, in order to sit and meditate, one has to know not just how to do it, but what is it that we're trying to accomplish. So as I stated earlier, we're not trying to stop the mind, as that task is impossible. We're trying to separate our mind and body while we're sitting, allowing the mind to continue searching for ideas on what to have for dinner, creating disaster scenarios around why your significant other isn't texting you back right away, or the trillion other imagined storylines it's working to create. It's here where we spend most of our time, worrying about the future, stuck in the past, and having arguments with people that never took place, or if it did, you're now thinking, damn, if I'd have said this one witty retort, I would have won that argument. How many times do you do that? Why we do this is not really important to me, but the fact that it happens is what matters most. So if you're always living in your head, how can you enjoy your current moment? You can't. We must work to shape the mind. Yes, I said shape the mind, even though I said we're not working to ease or quiet the mind. In order to quote Deepak Chopra, meditation is not a way of making the mind quiet. It's a way of entering into the quiet that's already there, buried under the 50,000 thoughts the average person thinks every day. So now that we have an understanding of what this type of meditation is, the next step is actually doing it. So at the present time, I meditate twice daily. I do one about 15 to 20 minute meditation, and one, I'm going to call it 25 minutes or longer. I'm looking to hit 45 minutes right now. They're averaging about 30 minutes, but sometimes I shut them down at 25 minutes. But when I first started, I would sit for 5 minutes. Really, it was all I could do. Once I was comfortable with 5 minutes, then I would expand that for another 5 minutes. And I kept doing that. In order to be completely honest and share my changes and challenges, I was up to 30 minutes and was having difficulty sitting for that long. So I changed my meditation length to 15 minutes. I kind of felt like I hit a wall, or maybe plateaued. No, plateaued is not really the right word. I hit a wall hard because I felt like I was climbing this mountain, hit the wall, and slid down. I was really struggling with my meditation. So I brought it back down to 15 minutes, and now I work my way back up to where I am now. So the guidelines for this meditation are simple, but can be expanded upon further study. And I'll briefly list them, and then discuss each one in further detail. So the basics. We're going to sit up reasonably straight on the floor, in a chair. If you're sitting in a chair, do not have your back against the back of the chair, or a meditation mat with your eyes closed. A meditation with the eyes open can come later down the road. It's a little bit more of a difficult practice, at least from my direct experience. You're going to bring your full attention to the feeling of the breath coming in and out. And when your mind wanders, and it will, over and over again, gently, and I say this again, gently and with compassion, return your focus to the breath. The posture of meditation is the next thing we want to talk about a little bit, and I went into this more in another video on IGTV. I'm sure most of you have seen the images of the Buddha sitting in a weird posture. Meditation is not about the posture, but one of the keys to regular practice and a solid practice is good posture. We don't have to be as flexible as Stretch Armstrong to sit. I think I just dated myself there. But there are 6 ways to sit as I understand it. I've discussed, I think, 3 or 4 of them in the last video, or one of the last videos, and I've been trying to get into quarter and half lotus for quite some time. But I typically sit the Burmese posture, which I spoke about before. It's just the foot, which I know you can't see right now, but it's just the foot up against the inside of the thigh and the crotch, and the other one in front of it. No legs crossed, just one foot in front of the other. That's the Burmese style. Do not make a mistake that this is not crossing your legs. The key here is to get both knees on the mat or the floor lower than the hips. So, and then you can see here it's a nice little posture. Now, I've talked about cushions and things like that before. I have another video where I go into 2 different types of cushions I use. The small one I use is called a zafu. It's the small cushion that usually sits on a zabuton, which is a bigger cushion. Makes it a little bit more comfortable. Unfortunately, I bought this because it was a little bit lighter when I traveled to the United Arab Emirates. I also took it with me when I went to Thailand. But my favorite, hate to say favorite, but my favorite zafu and zabuton are back in the U.S. in Huntington. I really miss that zabuton a lot. On my yoga mat isn't quite as comfortable, but I guess that's part of the practice. And the zafu is just a smaller, thicker cushion that you place on top of the mat. And it helps you pop your hips forward, like I said before. So you want to get comfortable, but believe me, they're not going to be comfortable for that long. But that's all part of the practice. And also something I've talked about already, but I'm going to really go into the pain of meditation later. Discomfort more than, and not really pain. But don't allow your mind to tell you that you can't meditate because you don't have these. Go look at my other video. I discuss different types of pillows you can find around your house. The Arabic pillow that I use for my kneeling meditation. If you have any pillows in your house, and I know you do, you're all set. I used regular pillows for years when I was meditating on and off when I didn't have a really daily practice. But when I got my daily practice, I spent money on meditation cushions. Now your back should be straight, as if your head was on a string and was pulled upwards. Sitting straight, chin ever so slightly tucked. Your hands can be placed on your knees, palms down. Some choose to sit with their hand in the lap, like I said before, left hand, right hand, thumbs up in triangle. Other people sit in this typical position. And it really, you know what, try each one a few times and use your own direct experience to see which one is best for your practice. So now that we're sitting, we're in a proper posture, take a few seconds to breathe. Take a deep breath As you draw in the breath, take notice of any place in your body that is tight. Could be your head, your eyes squinting, your jaw clenched, and try to soften those parts, even if it's only 2% softer and more relaxed than before. Do this a few times, paying close attention to your body. And allowing your breathing to return to normal as you close your eyes. And the way I've come to understand meditation and mindfulness is as the practice evolves, so should you. What I mean by that is that at first, what we're trying to do is work on our concentration. This first practice is not about sharpening the mind, but sharpening your concentration so that you can direct it or allow it to focus on something other than the thoughts through your head. You can direct it to what's going on right now, in this very moment, both inside your body and around you. So we close our eyes to get rid of the outside distraction. And also because this is when the mind loves to rev the engines and take off in a ton of different directions. If you want to become free from the prison of your own mind, we need to practice at full speed. Eventually, you can begin to work in doing an open eye meditation. These can be quite challenging, like I said, as it adds extra stimuli, which gives your brain more crap to fling at you. But with the goal of being mindful each and every moment throughout our lives, always in the moment and never lost in the trappings of the mind, we must allow the practice to progress to meditating with our eyes open. I've recently started doing that, and it's working a little bit. I struggle with it, as everyone does in their meditation practice. It's a practice. We keep coming back to it. We keep sitting. We keep doing it, and you'll get better at it. Let's say I meditate twice daily, and now one of those sessions is actually with my eyes open. I'm doing it for about 15 minutes. And the key here is I'm being kind with myself. I'd say this just so you have some idea as to how this flows once you start to sit. So now we're sitting, relaxed, eyes closed, and breathing naturally. Allow your focus to come to the breath. Feel the sensation as you exhale. Find yourself a focal point, the area above your upper lip as you exhale through the nose, or the rise and softening of the belly with each breath. Find something to do with the breath that you can direct. Find something that has to do with the breath that you can direct your focus and attention towards. Now exhale and count that as 1. As you inhale, count it as 2. We'll try this. So inhale, 1, exhale, 2. Do this until you get to 8. And once you get to 8, count back down to 1. Each breath coming naturally. Now this sounds easy, right? Breathe naturally, focus on your breath, until you try to direct your concentration to the breath and realize you've just begun controlling your breathing, and it isn't natural anymore. And this is normal. It's something that frustrates me to this day. But I keep working on it, and I found myself to be getting better with each passing moment. It also helps me, being a scuba diving instructor, because that's one of the things we tell our students as well, is once you have the regulator in your mouth, you just breathe normally, in and out, just like you normally would. We're not taking big breaths in, big breaths out, just breathe normally. Scuba signal, sorry. And when I first started doing that, before I became an instructor, I was always really focused on my breath. And when you focus on your breath, you can't do it naturally. You tend to want to control that. But you can get there with practice. I am a prime example of that. So as we're counting our breaths, our focus is going to drift off without us even realizing it. No longer are you really focused on the breath and counting. Instead, you become lost in your thoughts again. Swept down that stream of what is. You may even still be totally counting, but lost in thought. Think of it just like you're driving and you end up at your destination without remembering any of the drive. Exact same thing. This is also very natural, and how we react to getting lost leads into the last section of this first part of the series. So let's talk about the compassion of meditation. We talked about how you'll get lost in the thoughts as you try and meditate. When you notice this, gently and with compassion, bring yourself back to the breath. This is meditation. I heard the word compassion when I was first given these instructions and thought I was going to be asked to go out and hug a fucking tree next, which was not going to happen. After all, I'm far from a hippie. But then I sat and realized what that meant. There's a key here. There's a cycle that keeps happening if you've noticed. I hear things and then I sit and I come to realizations. So I sat and I started to count my breaths. And I don't really remember ever getting to the second breath. I'd count the first breath, and before I knew it, I had the weekend planned, was stressing over going to work the next day, had an imaginary argument with someone all in my head, based on how I imagined a conversation that actually hadn't happened yet. Then when I noticed I got lost, I'd say something along these lines. Stupid. Get lost in your head again. Damn it, Turk, get your shit straight. I'm really bad to myself. My instructors, as I was going through my scuba instructor training, as I went through my technical diving training, which is diving deeper than recreational divers are allowed to dive using mixed gases, and it gets complicated, but a lot of fun. I'm down to working on hitting 60 meters now, which is about 190 feet, I think, with a goal of hitting 100 meters, which is a little over about 330 feet. But I was beating myself up a lot in those courses. If I didn't do it right and didn't do it perfect, I'd beat myself up. In jobs, I always said, in interviews, I'd tell my bosses, I'm my own worst critic. There's never anything that you're ever going to tell me. You're not going to beat me up more than I'm going to beat myself up. Same way with my meditation. This has been a habit in my life that keeps going and going. It was a vicious cycle of me being terrible to myself. And, wouldn't you know it, I'd get lost again rather quickly in that. Even when I did come back to the breath, I'd still get lost. Allowing compassion for yourself is a difficult task, but it's one worth the work. So when this happens, tell yourself it's okay you got lost. This is one of the key things I didn't mention before, and I didn't really realize it until I was doing my meditation right after that. So you get lost in your head, right? One of the things I like to do when I do get lost is to take a deep breath and kind of re-examine everything. So it's okay, you got lost, deep breath, and then examine my posture. Examine, that, am I tense anywhere? Do that 2% relaxation somewhere if you can. I find as I take that deep breath, especially if I was lost in my mind for a while and didn't realize it, that my posture slipped with my head down a bit, my shoulders pushed forward, and my back arched, kind of like this. Maybe not to this extreme, but like this. Now, good posture breeds good concentration, and good concentration breeds good posture. So the practice is not an easy one. If it was easy, well, we wouldn't need to practice it daily. So remind yourself that by just sitting, just getting down on the cushion, you're doing great. Allow you to show yourself some compassion. After all, you deserve it because you're now meditating. So this is it for the basics. Count the breaths, get lost, gently and with loving kindness and compassion, return the focus to the breath and repeat. This is a practice I do daily, and it's allowed me to sharpen my concentration to the point where I often know when I'm not being mindful during my daily life, and I bring my attention back. It's given me a deeper understanding of how much suffering I create for myself, but also a way out of that suffering. And it's opened my mind to the first teachings of the Buddha, which are the Four Noble Truths. And that's the next video I'm going to make. So until next time, be well. And don't just do something. Sit there.
Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dhammāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi